And we are back, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate y'all for tapping in. What is the doing all right? We doing, hey, bro, we doing just fine, man. We doing good, man. Going on here. We just working hard for y'all, but we love to do it, man. It ain't nothing else I'd rather do but work hard for y'all. Follow me there and follow Bryan Broaddus there. Easy peasy. Bryan.
Yes, sir.
Man, I was doing my show today, Bleach Report. Got a little panel show. You know, we break down all the games happening that week, and we got to the, I'm
Voch Lombardi, big time media man. Please follow me on all these channels where I can entertain you.
That is true.
Daily.
That's exactly what they get, Bryan. They get entertainment when they follow me. And we got to the Panthers Cowboy game, right?
Yeah, we do. We do.
And boy, you should hear the national narrative behind it, right?
Oh man.
Oh, the Cowboys, boy, the Cowboys offense is looking all right, man. They putting up 20 in a I say, man, I say what? They say, yeah, Voch, I mean the Cowboys, I mean, even going back to the Giants game, Cowboys offense put up 27 points. I say, what? These people ain't watching Bryan Broaddus, you know what I'm talking about? And they don't understand the only reason the Cowboys were able to do anything because Cincinnati's defense is putrid.
Yeah.
I think Carolina as a whole, today we're going to break down the offense, but I think Carolina as a whole will give you a different type of challenges than the Bengals did. So this is my first point I want to bring to you, Bryan Broaddus.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say this, and you could tell me whether I'm on track, whether I got it right, whether I got it wrong. The Cincinnati Bengals, they attacked you doing what they're good at. But they didn't attack you doing what you're bad at. If anything, we're good in pass coverage. We can cover some people, but they're just phenomenal in running routes and catching football in the air. Yeah. The Cowboys still haven't proven to me that we can deal with the run game, Bryan.
Sure.
And it's like the Giants maybe didn't do a good job of it. The Washington Football Wizards didn't do it enough, and the Bengals just chose not to do it.
Right.
This Carolina Panthers team is going to run the football.
Yeah.
This isn't the Chuba Hubbard. You remember how excited we were about Chuba Hubbard coming out of Oklahoma State?
Fourth round pick. Yeah.
He's finally that dude now, Bryan. There's something like he's fine at this point in his career. What is he like, 26? Yeah. He's finally that guy now. Yeah. And Carolina will give him the football. And we can talk about Bryce in a minute. Bryce has definitely gotten better, but I think the biggest challenge that the Cowboys are going to face, we still have to prove that we can stop the run. And the Carolina Panthers are a team that when they get on offense, Chuba Hubbard is going to be featured running the football. Bryan, is that what you saw?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right about Carolina, and I think they present a different challenge. I'm going to not lie to our audience. I watched the last 5 weeks.
Sure.
I usually can go back and try and figure out, like, okay, I need to watch, week 2 in this matchup or week 3. No,
different team.
Everything that's happened since Berlin when they went to, they played the Giants. I went forward from there. I'm not interested in when Bryce Young got benched.
Sure.
Why it all happened. I'm just trying to find the current and the best version of these players. And so when you watch Chuba Hubbard, he's really played well all year. The issue that Chuba Hubbard will have, he will wear out teams that are bad run defense teams.
Yeah.
He will wear out the Bears, the Saints,
Chiefs,
Cincinnati. Yeah, he'll wear out those teams. You look at his yards per carry against teams that are really not very good on run defense. He's phenomenal in those games. Well over 5 yards a carry playing those teams. Raiders, put him against Tampa, put him against Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Put him against some teams that play some legitimate front seven run defense. And he's a little bit more pedestrian. Dallas is 4th worst in the league, or I don't know what you'd say. Would they be? They're 4th in the league at 4th worst. Is that what you would say?
4th worst, yeah.
Yeah, 4th worst. I don't know. Man, I'm from school in Louisiana, and you're from Mississippi, so we're not doing. Yeah. But you got to understand. Yeah, 4.8 a carry. Dallas's run defense has gotten better, but it's not. I mean, it's still, he's got a possibility if Dallas without Overshown in there. We'll see how Maris Leofau. This is all what we've kind of been waiting for, Voch, a little bit. This is what we've been waiting for. Is that Maris Leofau? They told us about Maris Leofau, and this is what he is, and we like him. He can base. He's smart. He can run. He can play the point of attack. There's a lot of things about Maris Leofau that we've seen. And have been. I'll say this: the son of a gun's around the ball, and usually when the ball's on the ground, he's right there. He's kind of a turnover guy,
high energy guy.
High energy. But this game, he's going to get an opportunity. Man, here we are, week 15. Here we go. Maris Leofau, step up. You're now going to have to play a role where you're going to be a blitzer. You're going to be a point of attack player. You're going to have to run to the sidelines. You're going to have to cover. They're going to make you do a lot of things, and we'll see. They were really, really high on the kid. He's had some good plays. There's no question about that. But this Carolina run offense will challenge you because of the back, and if you're not good, he'll average 5 yards a carry. And I didn't want to give. I didn't know. Cincinnati. I'm like, well, they're not going to run the ball. But what did they do? They threw the ball to that guy. The running part, he was effective to some point, but throwing the ball that was the problem in that one. That guy making plays, and they'll do the same things with Hubbard. They will go empty and they'll put him out out wide. They'll throw him the ball. He's very effective at doing that. If I'm Dave Canellis, if I'm the coach of the Panthers, I'm like, listen, Dallas, they having trouble covering running backs out of the backfield, throwing the ball. Yeah. What do I need to get my guy going this way? So yeah, the Carolina Panthers present a different challenge, and the quarterback's playing much better. In the last 5 weeks, or 2 and 3, they probably should be. It should be, maybe they could be 4-1. With some of the games that they play, they've been in most every game now since that Giants game. Quarterback's playing better. The wide receivers are not going to scare you, but they've got a couple of guys that Adam Thielen can't run out of sight, but he'll catch every damn ball they throw to him. Sure. So Leggett, the wide receiver they got from South Carolina, unfortunately for, Panther fans, he dropped a ball that would have probably been the game-winning touchdown against the Eagles last week. But it's a unique group. And they're playing better football right now, but they're going to hang their hat on that running back, and rightfully so.
You feel like this team is playing with I'm talking about Carolina right now, bro. You think they just playing with a bit of toughness because they don't have like a player that just stands out to you. When we watch, Cincinnati, we're like, all right, Burrow, Chase, Higgins, watch them. All right, even the Giants, we can look and be like, all right, Tyrone, Tracy, Malik Neighbors, It's like if you look at the Panthers, they're an odd group. They don't really have a standout player in that way. Like Chuba is their standout, and Bryce Young is technically their standout, right? And it's like they hang around in these games, Bryan Broaddus, and maybe that's something that we talk about tomorrow that's keeping them in these games or whatnot. But just what a big change from when Bryce getting benched and Andy Dalton, now Bryce is back. It seems like he's throwing with some really good timing, and it seems like when they're throwing the football, they're really like trying to move you on the offensive line. Bryan, what did you get from watching their offensive line?
I'll tell you what, I think their offensive line has got some bullies on it.
Yeah.
I do, and they're kind of a group, and you've heard me talk about this before. I think in pass protection they could be a little slow-footed, and I think people that have kind of moved on them and run twists. I could see Mike Zimmer trying to kind of, work with, his edges and then work with his tackles, kind of maybe try and create. I've seen Carolina in pass protection just flat bust. And, so I think there's a little bit for a veteran group. I think it's kind of to see an offensive line bust like that. It's kind of like, okay, well, that's but they've got guys that are kind of bullies up front, and they're going to, the thing that I think that when you look at Bryce Young, he is more willing now to run when he has to. He is more willing to, if all of a sudden he drops back and it doesn't look clean, he's going if he sees. And we saw him do that at Alabama. We saw him with his legs. We've all watched the tape of the Alabama-Texas game, several years ago, where they've got him dead to rights in the backfield. And he ducks the coverage. He ducks the sack and then runs down the sideline for like 20 yards to get him in field goal range. It's a capable player. Yeah. He is a very capable player. You mentioned about throwing the football, but the offensive line, I think, has done a pretty decent job. I can't go there and say, well, Cincinnati's offensive line was not very good, and give you all these reasons and all. I think when I watch Carolina, I'm kind of like, okay, there's things they struggle with, the movement part, but other than that, man, I think they're all right. I don't see anything where I see like massive, glaring problems. The right tackle, Moton, has been there, forever since he was a second round pick in 2017. Been there forever as a right tackle. Yeah. And you can kind of see he's the one that's given up three and a half sacks. If he's kind of given up 3.5 sacks, 2 sacks, but it's not like it's just a terrible offensive line that's a sieve and it's causing this guy problems. They're going to play with a condensed formation, which meaning Dallas plays the opposite of condensed. They spread out sideline to sideline. Carolina's going to get condensed. They're going to get in bunch formations. They're going to have 3 on one side. They're going to have 1 on the other. They're going to have a single back. And they're going to do a lot of movement, and they're going to try and kind of send you one direction and go the other. Yeah. And so that's the challenge this week. But it's a pretty solid offensive line. I wouldn't say great. But Dallas has played against worse offensive lines, and I think they played against one last week against Cincinnati. Yeah. That I didn't like them as much as I like what I've seen from the Carolina group.
I know that they threw some money at Robert Hunt. He was a Dolphin, I believe. And,
Miami Dolphin, yeah.
For sure. Moton's cool. Mays may be a guy that you can go after a little bit, Cade Mays.
Hadn't given up a sack, though. He hadn't given up a sack. So he's the one guy, like Lewis, who they got from Seattle. Everybody on that line has given up a couple of sacks and has pressures.
Sure.
But it's not where they're bad is when people make them have to adjust.
Sure.
When they make them, when they have to chase somebody.
Yeah.
Then they look a little off, or they just flat bust. They bust an assignment, and now you've got a free rusher on Young, and he tries to navigate that, or he'll throw the ball away, or he'll take a sack. But I didn't like with the Bengals and the Giants and the teams that they played.
Sure.
The Cowboys have played. I've been kind of like, okay, here's clearly where you need to attack.
Yeah. My overall point, though, Brian, is that this offensive line is probably better than the one that you played against last week, though.
Agreed. That's yes, sir. That's where I would go with this. And the quarterback receivers, no. But the thing that's interesting about, like I said, about Thielen, he came off IR and he's had some games. He has had the last couple of games that they played, Philadelphia, Tampa. He's had some like 100-yard, 99-yard games.
Yeah.
I didn't think Bryce Young could throw the ball for 75 yards in a game. But Bryce Young in these last 5 games or so is averaging about 250 yards passing.
Sure.
So they're kind of figuring some things out with him. The offense is better with him. They're moving the ball. They get down. I was watching the Kansas City game. They get down in the red zone, and they're trying like hell to hit seam routes and crossing routes and all that, and they can't get it done. And they're kicking a bunch of field goals. That's what they're doing. They're just kicking field goals, and you're thinking like, well, damn, you ain't going to beat Kansas City just kicking field goals. And then they kind of find something. But Bryce Young has had some really good halves of football.
Yeah.
These last 5 games. He's had like Tampa. He's had the Tampa game. He lit Tampa up in the first half. They've had trouble finishing games. They've had trouble finishing some games.
Yeah.
But first half, He's had some moments where he's looked like a very good NFL quarterback. And then there's other times where the second half, and then he just kind of falls apart a little bit. And maybe he'll learn, but he is so much better than the cat that they played last year.
Yeah.
And that's why I think that's why Carolina feels like that they've got a chance, that they've got a better quarterback than what you've got.
Well, Brian, I tell you what, it's a tale of two halves of a season. You were mentioning that Giants game is sort of this this turning point or whatever. If you look at Bryce Young prior to that, he's thrown 7 interceptions all year.
Yes.
He threw 6 of them prior to that.
Yeah.
Since the Giants game, he's only thrown 1, and that was versus the
3
Eagles.
touchdowns, 1. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So he's taking care of the football now. He's getting it out. He doesn't get sacked as much as he used to.
No, he doesn't.
He's getting rid of the ball quicker now. So now if you're the Cowboys defense and you're Mike Zimmer and you're trying to come up with this game plan, if you trying to sack him, one, he can move around a little bit.
He can move.
He's kind of got that same wiggle that Burrow has, like he wants to throw it, but he can.
He's tiny.
He's a little bitty.
Tiny. He's little bitty, and when he runs, in his ability to duck and kind of get through a hole, you're kind of like, how do you do that? And you realize, well, he's tiny and he's quick and he's got a little bit of some wiggle to his game. Mm-hmm. That's how Joe Burrow did it the other day. The Cowboys late in that game kind of figured out, and they were getting sacks when they were rushing out of lanes. When Overshown was rushing, and then he gets trapped on one side, Ted Karras, the center, and all of them, they're pushing him over to one side, and now there's a lane. And that's where Burrow was kind of running through the lane. He was running through, kind of stepping up, making a throw. When Dallas figured out stay in your lanes, contain rush, Burrow was having a little bit more problems. He was getting sacked. He was having to hold the ball.
Sure.
Yeah, you give quarterbacks like Bryce Young a lane and grass in front, he's going to take it. Yeah. And Dallas has got to be aware of that in this football game, because it hurt him in the Cincinnati game a little bit with allowing these quarterbacks to climb the pocket and get through and make a throw or take a run.
Yeah. I just don't want people thinking that this Carolina team is the Carolina team that we thought it was going to be.
It's not.
They're a totally different squad.
You're going to have to play well to beat this team. Yeah. Now, I haven't looked at their defense. Sure. I haven't looked at their defense. Their defense might be absolute ass.
It can't be worse than the Bengals or the bad. That's
what I'm saying. Yeah. But I'm willing to bet that Carolina's offense, you mess around, will hold them in this game. And I'm not blowing smoke up people's ass right now.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. I'm just saying, this quarterback is playing better. The receivers are not household names, but you let Thielen and Moore and Coker and those guys, they're very capable, and they got, Sanders, the tight end from Texas that we all kind of watched last year, and we're thinking, okay, here's a pretty interesting player. Mm-hmm. Tommy Tremble is another tight end they have. They've got some capable players on offense, and their offensive line will try and bully you. This is not one of those, roll your helmet out there in Carolina. No, Carolina, it's going to be a tough game for Dallas to win.
Not only are they better, but we're not good enough to go out there and just mess around with those guys.
Yeah, that exactly. And then you lose Overshown, and we'll see how Maris plays. But you're going to have to cover better, and you're going to have to let if you do not get after them, you don't get after their running game, there are going to be some problems in this football game.
Man, Brian, you mentioned Overshown, man. The Cowboy Nation is devastated about it.
They are.
As we should be. That's it hurts because that's one of your best players, of course, but knowing that he just came off this last injury. And I'm not the most doctor-y content dude in the world, so I don't really know. Yeah. But when they explained it to me that when you tear all 3 of them, that is bad, right? So that is bad. So the
unhappy triad, they call it in athletics. So the unhappy triad.
So he may not be playing next year, Brian. Can you just give us any just whatever you have on that? Any information you have on that?
This, we had a chance. I've got sources in the building and stuff like that, and they're going to try. They've already starting to prep him and get him ready he's asking questions like, okay, what do I need to do to get ready for the surgery? He's already trying to, is there anything I could do? They wanted to try and get the surgery done this week. Swelling has been a little bit of an issue here. So they're kind of waiting on that. But he is very, very anxious to get this thing fixed and to get going. But, we've seen this, before, with certain linebackers. The guy at the San Francisco 49ers, Barrow, am I right about?
Sure.
Is that who? I think that's what I got. But no, one of the San Francisco linebackers,
Bowman, Navarro Bowman.
Yeah, I was thinking of another player. Yeah. Navarro Bowman had the same thing, but he tore, instead of 3, he tore 4 of the ligaments and missed the whole entire season. The following year, then came back, and then he was back to making all pro. So that's something, but this kid is, as we all know, he's just talking to people over there about him. He's super conscious of, what he needs to do. He's always, he's not going to miss meetings, or not meetings, but he's not going to miss treatments. He's not going to miss workout deals. I mean,
he's not going to mess around with it. He's not just going to sit up and chill.
Yeah. And I guarantee you, Britt Brown, Overshown had his arm over Britt Brown's shoulder as they were walking off the field to the locker room. And I guarantee you, at that time, he and Britt were talking about what they were going to do. I mean, they spent a year together, getting the last one fixed. And so I guarantee you that he and Britt have been in constant communication about, okay, what do we need to do? How quickly can I do things? But like I say, this thing is not, with how late it is in the year, would you bet against the kid? No, but this one could take a year. Mike McCarthy even said that the other day in the press conference, that there's a possibility that he wouldn't play this year. We'll see about that. But I guarantee you, Britt Brown and Overshown are they're going to put the bit between their teeth, to say an old horse racing term, and they're about to go to work. Yeah. And as soon as that's done, and as soon as he can do anything, I promise you, they're gonna get this thing going the way they need to go to get it done.
Well, Mike McCarthy's going to be coaching at the University of Pittsburgh by the time Overshown get back, so that's nice of him to say that. It's nice.
Pat, you don't have any faith in Pat Narduzzi there at Pitt? What's going on?
It's very nice that Mike McCarthy will say that about Ben Johnson's linebacker, but shouts out to him or whatever. Brian, so the first question that just pops up on everybody, I got tagged.
I want to ask you a question.
Por favor.
I want to ask you a question.
Por favor.
I want to ask you a question.
See if you play.
Linebacker now becomes potentially a first-round need, doesn't it? Because of what's happened with the lack of development of, say, Damone Clark. You're really, and then you have, Kendricks is a 1-year guy, playing the last month of this season. This thing now turns, and then again, we don't know what's going to happen with Overshown. We hope that he can come back this year. All of a sudden, linebacker becomes something that I'm now looking at with a lot of interest, more so than maybe, we're talking about defensive linemen and running backs and whatever other positions. Linebackers there, right? Am I right about that?
I disagree.
Okay.
I do think we should be looking at linebackers seriously.
Mm-hmm.
The Cowboys draft linebacker every year, though. So maybe instead of drafting a linebacker in the 5th round, it'd be like a teams guy, rotational guy. Maybe you got to look. Boy, damn, been nice to have that for. Maybe you got to look at them in the 2nd or 3rd. I think where we are now, if this would have happened a few months ago, then linebacker would be in.
We would play
in for sure. But Brian, we've had the luxury of watching. I mean, we had like 50 players now, 30-something, 40-something. Yeah. We've been able to put names to faces now.
Mm-hmm.
And with the information that we have, unless something change, I still don't think the linebackers on the board fully match where we're drafting it.
Where you're picking.
We're picking. Now, me and you disagree on Jalen Walker, linebacker / edge from Georgia.
Right.
So maybe you're thinking, hey, this is a perfect opportunity to do this. I don't want to be a coward just because Bryan Broaddus on the phone. I disagree about Jalen Walker.
Okay.
So on my board,
I think talking to Zach Wolchuk, I think he disagrees with me too.
Mm-hmm.
I think he, and there's going to be a discussion, I'm sure, when we get on the draft show about linebackers, and hopefully there will be some others that do emerge that we can watch. You're right. The best one that I've seen so far is that kid Walker at Georgia. Yeah. That's the best one I've seen.
So now you're forced to have this conversation. You go, damn, we need linebacker now. Now you're having questions like, okay, well, is it Jalen Walker or Luther Burden, or Jalen Walker versus Ashton Jency, Jalen Walker versus Mason Graham? I'm taking I'm taking all those guys over Jalen Walker, in my personal opinion.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this, Bryan Broaddus: Jalen Walker or the corner Will Johnson from Michigan?
I am not a huge Will Johnson fan. There's some legitimate concern by me of a 6'2", 202, 204 pound guy that doesn't run particularly well. I don't think he's going to time well. I think there's some things about him when he plays zone coverage. I think there's some things about him that are some good things. I worry about him turning and running and opening and doing all those things, playing man coverage. I think he's going to be one of these guys that media scouts have got very, 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 very high. He's probably going to still be a first-round pick. And this is something he'll probably get tagged one day when he makes the Pro Bowl or all-rookie team or whatever, and I really don't care. The Michigan tape is showing me that he is a good player, but I do not see a player that should be picked in the top 5. That's just me. I don't see that. Now, he is going to be a first-round player, and maybe he gets picked when Dallas. Maybe he should be picked when Dallas is picking. Maybe if Dallas picks
at 11, 12 or 11, good enough.
Maybe that's where I wouldn't do it again. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case either.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't have that kind of confidence in that player that way.
So Bryan,
I love the East Carolina kid more than I do him, and I know the East Carolina kid has a bad knee or has a knee that got fixed. Yeah.
Man, Bryan, let me ask you this then. You take your
I would take the linebacker over him myself.
Let me ask you this, Bryan. So you have a need for linebacker, and there are some Cowboy fans that say you got a needed offensive line as well.
You do.
Do you take Jalen Walker, the linebacker edge from Georgia, or do you start to incorporate like Kelvin Banks, the tackle guard from Georgia? Which one is that more of a conversation that'll have you thinking a little more?
Kelvin Banks, the Texas guard, I think he's a guard. I don't think he's a tackle. Again, Wolchuk and I had this discussion on our show today on 105.3 The Fan. We actually off air, and he says, "Listen, he goes, I think you're right about Banks being a guard. He thinks that Will Campbell, the LSU guy, can play tackle, but he's saying that he goes, I think that Banks is a guard. I'm going to say this, though, Voch,
sure.
And again, here's another show. Sorry, folks, I'm on all these platforms for you.
Please.
But we had this discussion. I asked my guys on the break on DallasCowboys.com, I asked them this question. I go, do you feel better now after watching Hoffman and Bass play guard as a possible replacement for Martin than you do what you have watching the Cowboys play with these linebackers? That's the question you have to ask yourself. If you're into the guard business, do you feel better about, do you feel like that Hoffman and Bass could potentially take over the right guard spot and keep you from having to pick Banks, say, at 11?
I'll take Banks over the linebacker, and I'll play him at tackle or guard, whichever one.
Which you're going to play him at, you're either one.
I think it's funny, Brian.
I don't know if I would play him at left tackle though.
Probably not. Listen, I got Banks ranked higher than Will Campbell, the tackle from
but we like from
LSU.
We like Simmons, right?
We like Simmons. Simmons is my number one.
State.
But Banks is my 2, and I think he's a tackle.
You think Banks is a tackle?
I think Banks is a tackle. I think Campbell is a tackle, but I think Campbell is more of a guard than Banks is.
Right.
I'm not putting Banks at guard at all. Just my own personal opinion.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That's a discussion that we'll have to. Well, I'm.
We'll all be different. We will all be different about that.
Me, this group is not like the group last year where you had guys. You're like, this guy. Boom. You knew exactly where these guys were. These guys, this tackle group.
Yeah.
There are a lot more questions about this tackle group than we've seen in a long time.
Sure.
A lot more questions.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
but I'm not sitting here and advocating. I'm just telling me personally.
Sure.
I feel better about the guard situation than I do the linebacker situation currently with the Dallas Cowboys. Just because of what I've seen from Bass and Hoffman and those guys at that spot. Is it perfect? No. Would I love to upgrade? Absolutely. But I wonder on my board, is there going to be somebody there at 11 and hell, Dallas could go on a damn 5-game losing streak now after the Cincinnati loss. I mean, they can lose to Carolina, then the next 3 games are all potentially losable games. And then hell, you might be picking better than 10th or 11th. You might be, that would be, how many wins is that for you? That's 5 wins, right?
Yeah.
5 and 12. That's going to get you up there. So, potentially you're looking at being up. I think there's going to be other players up there that I would take over any of those guys that we just talked about.
I agree. And my own personal opinion before we wrap the show, I'm still looking at guards, regardless of what Hoffman and Bass have done.
Oh, I think you're right.
Yeah.
But
even
would you take one at 6?
6 overall?
Yeah.
No, sir. 6 overall, I'm taking a wide receiver.
Okay, let me ask you this then. Okay, you're taking one of those wide receivers then.
Wide receiver, pass rush, D tackle.
You're hopeful that maybe
McMillan, Burton, Genty, Mason Graham. That's my list at 6.
Okay. Man, I like your list at 6.
This is a damn good list though. And
it is.
And Brian, we can't look. I'm one of your students. I'm a damn Brian disciple.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not window dressing my boy, man. I don't care what I need.
No, hell no.
I don't care what I need. Mm-hmm. Linebacker is a need. O-line is a need. I'm taking that running back or that edge or that tackle or that wide receiver.
Yeah, I love you for doing that, because to me, when Dallas can pick the best available player, when they stack it from 1 to 150, and they get there at 6, and that guy's on that board, and they take him, you got to feel good about that. I mean, they've had success just taking, whether it's a guard, whether it's a wide receiver, they've had linebacker, they've had success taking the best player on their board. And I hope they do the same damn thing, here in a few months.
Plus also too, Brian, I think it's going to be pressure in that room, knowing that you've missed on Mozzie and that Guyton is kind of weird. Like those aren't home runs. I think it's going to be more pressure in that room to try to get a home run on this first round pick, because your last 2 look questionable right now. Yeah,
they do. That surprised me the other day. I thought that Guyton was going to play in that game, and they just said nah.
Guyton ain't hurt though, huh? He just out.
I guess he was dressed and ready to go. He was dressed up, ready to go. So I don't know. I need to ask about that one, but like I said, there's going to be a time where you lose this game against Carolina, then you're going to see a lot of things kind of turn around, where you'll see some guys playing that probably. I'll tell you what, man. I You need a receiver.
You damn sure do.
Receiver.
You damn sure do.
I love Cooks. But beyond Cooks,
I am no longer in the business of overrating my own players. Jalen Tolbert can't play. Jalen Brooks can't play. Mingo is doing nothing for me. I don't want to lean on where I've seen you grow from. Jalen Tolbert is much better than what he once was, but he cannot play. Cannot
play. Yeah, you like I said, I don't think you're going to have Cooks, but it's going to be CD, and you're going to have to, they're going to tell us about that Tolbert is gotten better, but not to where he needs to be. He is not anywhere where he needs to be, and that now that is a concern for me. So I like what you said there. Mike Lombardi taught me that. He says, listen, the biggest mistakes that you can make is over-evaluating your own team. That's the biggest mistakes. You have to be honest with yourself about your team.
Yeah.
And they had a lot of guys this year that were going to make that jump, and they didn't make that jump. And that's probably a little bit why you're 5-8 right now.
Yeah, man, Broaddus, it's always a fantastic time, man, getting to have a conversation.
Appreciate you, brothers, man. Yeah,
man, you already, man. I'm just looking up some of the numbers, and Jalen Tolbert is about what Michael Gallup was last year. Michael Gallup didn't give you anything at all.
Didn't give you anything. And everybody was disappointed in Michael Gallup. I can honestly say if you start to, when we do the final autopsy on this thing and we go through each player and talk about if you would want him back or not or whatever.
Sure.
Jalen Tolbert is going to be one of those guys that has been, in my mind, has been hugely disappointing.
Yeah.
And I know he's got 4 more games, but there's nothing, that Pittsburgh game seems like it was years ago.
Yeah.
Him making that play. Seems like it was years ago. Yeah. Wildly inconsistent as a player. It's tough. Yeah. Tough.
Ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate y'all for tapping in with us and all that. Me and Bryan Broaddus going to come right back here tomorrow night. We're going to talk about the Panthers defense, and we might, sneak a little. We always going to find a way to sneak a little draft in there from here on out.
A little draft coverage in there.
You know what I mean? Sure. I know y'all want to hear about the team. We're going to tell you about the team, but we're going to tell you about who's going to be on the team next year. That's the most fun conversation we can have, all right? But I'll be talking draft on social media all day, all month, all to the end of the season. So y'all please be sure to tap in with me, VOCHLONBARDI, and please follow Bryan Broaddus because he answers all your questions and he gives you honest answers. He don't sugarcoat nothing. He's very stoic with y'all on that daggum social media. He's BRYN Broaddus. We both appreciate y'all so much. Thank y'all so much for tapping in. And hey man, y'all go eat some supper and we'll see y'all tomorrow. Okay? Y'all hold it down, man. We'll catch y'all next time. Crown.